The morning started like any other on my ranch, quiet, peaceful, and productive. The sun was barely over the horizon when I hopped into my John Deere tractor, ready to clear a patch of overgrown shrubs that bordered the HOA-maintained flower beds. The area, technically on my land, had become a bone of contention with one person in particular, Karen. Karen wasn't just a member of the HOA. She was the HOA. Or at least she acted like it. Ever since she got elected president of the Sunset Hills Homeowners Association, she'd made it her mission to make my life miserable. According to her, my tractor was too industrial for the neighborhood aesthetic, and my land maintenance lacked curb appeal. Last week, she even tried to fine me for soil erosion. Who fines someone for dirt? But today, she went a step further. I hadn't even made it 10 feet down the path when I saw her. Pink tracksuit, oversized sunglasses, and a clipboard tucked under her arm like a sword. She marched out from her perfectly manicured lawn, planting herself directly in front of my tractor. Her prized rose bushes flanked either side of her like royal guards. "You can't mow here," she snapped, pointing her clipboard at me like a traffic cop. "This land is HOA protected. Your overgrown wilderness ends here." I rolled down my window, trying to keep it civil. "Karen, this is my property line. I've got the original survey papers. You know this." She waved the papers off like I was showing her monopoly money. "Doesn't matter. We've adopted this border as common ground. You so much as touch these roses, and I'll have you fined, sued, and maybe even arrested." That's when I noticed she'd already dialed 911 on her phone, thumb hovering over the green button like it was a detonator. Now, I don't like confrontation, but I like being bullied even less. I revved the engine. Her eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, I dared." Slowly, the tractor lurched forward. She shrieked and jumped aside just in time, but her roses weren't so lucky. The blades didn't even hesitate, chewing through petals and stems like they were paper confetti. It was over in seconds. She screamed louder than the engine. "You're finished." Finished. But I didn't stop. I kept rolling right over her roses, her imaginary property line, and her sense of entitlement. By the time I parked the tractor and walked back to my porch, Karen had already called an emergency HOA meeting right there in the cul-de-sac. 5 lawn chairs, a folding table, and a megaphone materialized like some kind of suburban tribunal. She wasn't just angry now. She was performing. "This man," she shouted through the megaphone like I'd committed a war crime, "has violated the sanctity of our neighborhood. He has slaughtered HOA-planted roses. His tractor rampage is an act of aggression." I leaned against the porch railing, arms crossed. Her roses weren't HOA planted. They were hers. I had photographic proof they were inside my property line, but the truth didn't matter to Karen. She wasn't after facts. She was after control. Behind her, the other board members shifted uncomfortably. Dale from Lot 9 was sipping coffee like this was just Saturday morning entertainment. Miss Lorna from across the street looked like she wanted to melt into her lawn chair. "I'm invoking Article 8, Section B," Karen bellowed, "for reckless destruction of beautified common grounds. We demand compensation for damages, a formal apology, and a 6-month tractor ban." I walked over calmly, holding up a printed aerial photo from Google Maps, complete with my property line marked in bold red. "This is my land," I said, placing the photo on the table. "Those roses were planted on my soil without permission. So, technically, I should be charging you for trespassing and unauthorized planting." Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Dale squinted at the paper and muttered, "Well, he's not wrong." Karen snatched the photo, examined it like she was trying to find a flaw, then dramatically tore it in half. "Forgery," she declared. "Anyone can draw a red line." "You're right," I replied. "That's why I brought a copy signed by the county assessor's office." I pulled out the second sheet. Karen's face flushed as red as her roses once were. She was spiraling, and everyone could see it. The HOA's treasurer, a quiet woman named Anita, leaned over and whispered something. Karen's eyes narrowed, then widened. "Fine," she spat. "If you want to play dirty, then we'll play dirty. Just know I always win." She stormed off, knocking over a chair with her clipboard like she was exiting a courtroom drama. The rest of the board awkwardly dispersed, avoiding my eye. I'd won this round, but Karen wasn't done. I could feel it in the air. Something worse was coming. 3 days passed. I thought the storm had calmed. Karen's roses were gone. Her emergency HOA tribunal fizzled out. And my tractor sat peacefully beside the barn, its blades still stained with victory. But then came the letter, folded neatly in a pink envelope sealed with a sticker of a smiling cat. I kid you not, it was a notice of violation. Apparently, I was now under HOA disciplinary review for an array of petty infractions: excessive grass length by 1.2 inches, improper paint color on my barn door, which hadn't been painted in 6 years, and failure to maintain a harmonious appearance with the neighborhood, whatever that meant. Attached to the letter was a fine sheet totaling $4,984. I laughed out loud. This wasn't about rules. It was Karen's revenge campaign. I stormed over to the HOA office, which conveniently was in a converted sunroom at Karen's house. She answered the door with a fake smile and a steaming mug that read, "I speak fluent HOA. Can I help you?" she asked sweetly. "Oh, I think you know why I'm here." I handed her the violation letter. "This is a joke." "No joke," she replied, sipping her coffee. "The rules are the rules. I've lived here for 8 years. No one cared about my barn or my grass until 3 days ago. Maybe the standards have evolved," she said with a shrug. "Just like your lawn, out of control." I leaned in. "You're weaponizing the HOA. That's harassment." Karen's eyes twinkled with amusement. "Call it what you want. You drove over my roses. You embarrassed me in front of the board. This is karma." I could have yelled. I could have argued, but something in her smug grin made me pause. This wasn't about roses. This wasn't even about land. Karen needed to win. Control wasn't just her personality. It was her oxygen. So, I said nothing. I just smiled and walked away. But I wasn't done. That night, I pulled out my folder of old documents, survey maps, land titles, a log of every ridiculous HOA notice I'd received. Then, I did something Karen never expected. I called a lawyer. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd go legal. Let her try to explain to a judge why a tractor on private land triggered a $5,000 fine and a 6-month vendetta. She wanted a war. She just got one. By the end of the week, my lawyer had sent a cease and desist letter to the HOA citing harassment, abuse of authority, and falsified violations. He attached the county's official land survey, time-stamped photos of Karen's roses creeping onto my property over the last 6 months, and a compiled list of over a dozen nuisance fines, all issued by Karen alone. The letter hit harder than a front-loader bucket to the face. Within 48 hours, I got a call from the HOA vice president, Dale. "Hey," he said sheepishly. Karen's stepping down. Effective immediately." I nearly dropped my phone. "She what?" "Yeah," he chuckled awkwardly. "Turns out a bunch of neighbors had their own complaints, too. Your lawyer's letter kind of opened the floodgates." Apparently, Karen's reign of terror wasn't limited to me. She'd fined a teenager for flying a kite too close to power lines, an elderly couple for installing unauthorized bird feeders, and even tried to ban backyard hammocks because they encouraged loitering. Once Dale and the other board members reviewed everything, they asked her to resign before the legal firestorm scorched the entire HOA. She didn't go quietly, of course. Word spread she threw a decorative lamp during the emergency meeting and declared, I was the HOA. I bet she was halfway through writing a neighborhood memoir by now. But the best part? A week later, I received an official letter. All fines dropped. Property line dispute resolved. Tractor use unrestricted. I took a long walk across the lawn that evening, breathing in the sweet scent of fresh-cut grass and victory. The roses were gone, but something better had taken their place. Freedom. Neighbors who used to avoid eye contact now waved when they drove by. A few even stopped to thank me. You finally stood up to her, one guy said. We all wanted to. I just smiled. I hadn't set out to be the hero. I just didn't want to be pushed around. But something told me Karen wasn't done. She was too proud, too petty to let this end quietly. Maybe she'd try to run again next term. Maybe she'd start a Facebook HOA 2.0 group. Or maybe she'd stay inside tending to whatever new flowers she planted to replace her roses, tulips, maybe, less dramatic. As for me, I got back on my tractor the next morning, rolled right past where her roses used to bloom, and felt the breeze of a neighborhood finally at peace. Because sometimes, you've got to mow through a few roses to plant the seeds of something better. If you enjoyed watching me turn Karen's roses into mulch, just imagine what's coming next. Don't forget to like the video if you've ever dealt with a crazy neighbor. Comment your wildest HOA story below and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next showdown. Trust me, this war is just getting started.